Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bridge Talks.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Bridge Talks.
So, hello, everyone. We're going to talk today in this Bridge Talks about Universalism. So, it's great to have you joining us today.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to have you here. So, we're going to be talking about universalism. Let me present myself first. Actually, Jaclyn, do you want to present yourself first?
Okay. So my name's Jaclyn Cowen. I'm Australian and currently living in Brazil. I moved here in 2014. I have a background in urban design. And yeah, I've been a volunteer of conscientiology since 2007.
Okay, my name is Paula. I've been volunteering with conscientiology since 1991. As a result, I've lived in 5 countries, setting residence in Australia. Currently, I am in Brazil as a result of many changes now with the pandemic. I work as a psychologist and I have a specialization in psychology of aging. I think that's it. And let's start our presentation now. So today, this afternoon, we're going to be talking about universalism. Basically, our approach will be in understanding universalism and how we can develop universalism and how important it is for our evolution, for experiencing this life, and throughout many other lives. Throughout the presentation, we invite you to send your questions. We're going to be taking around some time just presenting some of the slides and ideas about it. And afterwards, we can have a great discussion. But throughout the presentation, if you have any question, please feel free to send your questions because that will enrich as well the approach that we're going to do with universalism. You're going to observe that we're going to look at universalism from an intraconsciential perspective, which means it's something that we're going to develop ourselves. How do we develop universalism ourselves, now, within ourselves? And so we're going to be talking about some of these aspects. And so we're going to go from micro-universe to the universe bigger, the bigger universe. Before we start our presentation, it's very important you take into account the principle of disbelief. So make sure you keep what's the principle of disbelief? It's in consciential projectiology way that it's important you keep your critical sense. So don't believe in anything, not even what is said here. In this talk, experiment, have your own experiences. So it's very important that you keep your critical sense, you open your mind for the information, but being open to experience it. It's not our intention here to talk about this subject and give a closed idea about it. Because when we talk about consciential projectiology, it's information that we pass through as a result of our own experience, our studies, our self-research. And as you know, it might sound it's my personal view about that and not necessarily your experience. So we share the experience and you take your own conclusions. So make sure to keep your critical sense, be open and see if it does make sense for you. And it's not our intention here to convince anybody about anything or to change your mindset or to change your ideas about anything. Our objective is to inform, and what you do with this information is up to you. It's nothing to do with us, right? So let's start then, present the theme itself.
So we have a definition here about universalism. This comes from actually the book, the treatise Projectiology. And it talks about this idea, this set of ideas derived from the universality of the basic laws of nature and the universe, which will become over time, or in other words, from the natural evolution of the consciousness, the dominant philosophy of the human species and of all beings in the cosmos. And so it talks about this, the consciousness will go through this self-lucid identification with the community, the state, the planet, and finally the cosmos or universe. So in other words, there will be this increasing sense or notion within the consciousness themselves. They're going to expand their idea of other realities, right, or other consciousnesses throughout the universe. So they go outside of their own ego, and they start to interact more and more with the, everything within the universe and the cosmos. So it's this growing sense of universalism that occurs. Okay. I don't know if, Anna, you would like to mention something else in relation to the definition of what is universalism?
Yeah, it's present there, and it's important we see that universalism has a relation with cosmoethics. So the more experience we have, our sense of ethics or our understanding of these ethics will increase, and therefore our level of universalism or connection with this understanding of universality that we have will increase as well. And when we say universality, it's something that we see our life, our planet in a bigger, broader perspective, like we are part, it's a big family. No? We're going to be talking a little bit more about this. We lose that perspective of borders, and so many differences that we exacerbated. And we come down to we all consciousness in evolution.
We're part of a big consensual family in a way. It's changing your perspective and how you view yourself in the world. Okay, so let's keep going.
So when we talk about the universalism, as we mentioned before, it's a set of ideas that more and more we access throughout our process of evolution. We do not understand that those ideas we access just by books or because someone tells us, and that's how we understand. When it comes to evolution, it passes through understanding, experience, reflecting, and changing our mindset, our observation of the things, how we feel about things, and how we respond about the universe around us. So we change our cognition, we change our emotions about the things that happen in our environment, and therefore our thoughts, our emotions, and the response we have throughout these situations we confront in our day-to-day. So here we show that it starts in the consciousness, in ourselves, whereas it's intraphysically or extraphysically, we are developing this universalism. So it's a centrifugal. First, inside, it's a centripetal force, and then we go towards outside. It's very interesting, this, because it's not because we are in a place where everyone has a high level of universalism that we're going to become universalists by osmosis or by example. No, we need to pass through us that experience, that understanding, and then we pass out. And here it's important we stress here that the perspective we have on this subject, it's related to the consciential paradigm, taking into account that we are consciousness in evolution, temporarily using this physical body. We use this body and more subtle bodies to manifest. We use our energy to manifest. We have a history, multi-existential history, and we manifest in the multidimensionality. So when we talk about universalism here, we are not only giving the perspective of our intraphysical life, our day-to-day life, but our multidimensionality as well. And so as long as we are acting and interacting and we are with different consciousness and with ourselves, we have an opportunity to develop the universalism. And when it comes to universalism, one aspect very interesting, Jaclyn, Can you put the other? Yeah. When it comes to universalism, the universalism, it will, the more universalist we are, and if you ask, can I say that I'm going to be a greater, more, this attribute will develop in one life? I don't think so. Do you think, Jaclyn, that we can in one life develop a greater level of universalism in this dimension?
Yeah, it's not so likely, I think, from my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
So, yeah, I personally, I don't think we do that. I think with the set of ideas, consciential projectiology, we have the chance to grasp this reality, but unfortunately, or fortunately, we are where we are in our evolutionary level, and because we are in this planet, we still have lots of limitations. And one of the limitations is exactly what we are seeing here. We still have a division in the knowledge, a division in the races, or because of the races, a division between people, a division between groups. And you see here this photo. I love this photo because it shows that it's an elephant, and this is account that there is an elephant, and they invited the monks that were blind to describe the elephant. And each of the monks, they describe one part of the elephant as well, like describe the elephant as a whole. So they take the arms or the legs of the elephant, and they say, wow, the elephant is the legs, or the elephant is the ears, or the elephant. And so in here, we see this all the time. We get a small portion of what we can see, and we take this as a whole. And this is the base, for instance, of many of the things that doesn't help universalism, which is the stereotype. Stereotype feeds preconception and feeds discrimination. And what is a stereotype? It's when we get one information and we put this as generalize. So there are many affirmations that we say. One example, it's my field that why I'm going to give this example, but we have many others. But every person that's aging is getting sick. So this is stereotype. Not every person is aging is getting sick. Not everyone. So the stereotype tends to limit the view of what it is in reality. And that's why we put here in terms of perspective. We tend to look the microcosmos as a macrocosmos and generalize. And this goes against the universalism because we are not incorporate the whole perspective we have. So when we look at consciousness, us, physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, our manifestation as a whole, we can understand the human beings in a more broader way. When we look someone that is in a country, speak a certain language, has certain color, skin, or having some class or status, or this doesn't necessarily talks a lot about who that consciousness is. It just give us a classification which is intraphysical, and for us it's a challenge living with this and being able to pass through this to look at who is this consciousness behind of that. So it's a great exercise. And also it's an exercise to understand that when we see the world, we all see from different perspectives, different angles. And when we have different angles and different perspectives, we have a background of learning, of differences that come into place. And it's not because it's different, it's bad. So let's put an exercise here for you guys to look. It's a photo for you to look at what we are talking about here. So when you see this photo, which image do you see first? And then which image you see the second? We have two images in this photo, right? We have an image of the young lady and an aging lady, no? So we have two. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. I like this exercise. It's first because it's accommodation of our brain, but also because sometimes we interact with people and sometimes they will see one angle of a situation, of a subject we are having, and we do the same. Uh, when we look at someone, we look from which angle? Are we seeing from the broader angle? Can we see from their perspective, my perspective? Can we see many variables that are involved in the perception of that person? Let's give an example. Like I was reading a book, very interesting. It's conversations between a woman about sexuality. It's a historian, historian study.
Historian.
Yeah, a historian, that a Brazilian historian, Marie de Prior, and she talks about the colonial times when the slavery woman, they used to have lots of kids and they reproduce a lot. And so, and from the angle of the Portuguese people, now the Portuguese from the colony, they will look and say that they were primitive, that they were they actually diminish them, those slavery women, thinking that they didn't have any value because they were doing that. But when she talks about this, she actually researched it, and back in Africa, because they were tribals. Within the tribals, the more the woman reproduce, and the more males they can have, no, and the males have more women reproducing, better will be for the tribal. So that woman was seen as very powerful woman with their husbands, no, because they were bringing enrichment to that tribal. And see, in Brazil, she didn't have any value. To the contrary, but in that culture, they were appreciated. So we are talking about here about culture, and it's our experience, non Jaclyn. When we go, when we travel, and no, you like to travel as well, no?
Exactly. I think this is one of the things, like for, to travel, because this is when you encounter people who think very differently from you, who may have a different set of values that are very different to yours. And how do how do you interact with people? Yeah, when, the person is doing something that is, it may be from your perspective and from your set of values, it's something that's, not good. It's not positive. And how do you, interact and view the other people that are engaged in those kind of actions or behaviors? So, for example, like you can go to a country that, there's some countries in terms of, they don't put a lot of value on the hygiene in the public space, right? And, you come from a country where hygiene is a very, it's highly valued in terms of, for example, I was, sometimes you can go on YouTube and watch these videos like of people talking about their experiences, right, in different countries. And there's one couple that lives in China, and they were talking about their experiences there. And of course, the whole idea is that you can comment and you can discern, and differentiate between these different aspects, right, of the culture. But at the same time, you're not negatively criticizing it. You're observing it. You're, noticing the differences. But at the same time, you still have admiration for the culture, in itself. So I think we need to practice, how we view, these different cultural aspects, and try to see things from the perspective of the culture itself. Why do you think they are like that? Why do they, see things in that way? And I think, this is a constant exercise, right? Because you're always going against your own set of values, and so it's but it's something that the more you practice over time, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, and then you can amplify this perspective. No, you see more incorporate more knowledge about it. No? They have this because they have lots of people around there. And I think the principle of admiration and discordance that we have, that we stud, I think it helps to sustain that. You can see the things, you can appreciate that. Not necessarily you agree with that, but you respect that. It's and not necessarily that it's less evolved or we do not characterize something. No, we do not put some close judgment about that situation. No? We just look and understand what it is, why this happened, and then from there we can understand that it's different. Different, it's not necessarily bad or good or worse or inferior or superior. It's just different.
That's it. So we have here just it's there's two lists here of what universalism is and what universalism is not. And of course, we're not going to go through everything because it would take we could speak for days about all the different details, but maybe we'll just highlight a few of them. For example, and just to notice, it should be swapped, right? Universalism on the left, but of course, it's obvious. But yes, how could I say? It's like the aspect of polyglottism, right? Learning more languages, know more languages is something that can help the person to interact with more people. You're cut off from a great percentage of the world if you're not able to speak different languages. And so that's important. And of course, but there's another aspect here in terms of, I guess, this aspect of peace, right? Peace, anti-bellicose or anti-warmongering attitude. But how much, for example, if we have a set of values and we, encounter someone who has different set of values to us and, and there's that conflict, right? Of course, the idea is to practice this admiration disagreement binomial, right? You, like what Anna was saying before, you respect others, even if they have views that are very different to your own. You can still be friends with the person. You can still think well and, have affection for the person and empathy, and this also has a relation with, intraphysical consciousnesses and extraphysical consciousness as well. We should say that it's, universalism extends to multidimensionality, right? And of course, it comes through in your thoughts, your feelings, and your energies, right, through your thought scenes. And then there are some aspects that are anti-universalistic. For example, being monocultural, right? Monocultural is you're just you think your culture is more superior to the others, or you're just interested in knowing about your own culture. You don't have a curiosity and wish to know about other cultures, and then there's things like the little world, right? Just being immersed in your own life and not having that interest and curiosity to go out and know about different people, different cultures, different people that are different to you, right? And so and then I think that's there's lots of others here. You can, if you have any questions about any of these and you would like to know more, please feel free to ask. Okay. And then we have, it's interesting because when you go to live in a different culture, it kind of pushes your boundaries, and you go through a series of different kind of phases before you become more adapted and more integrated into the culture that you're in. But of course, it's not, doesn't mean that just because you're in a different culture, you live in a different culture, or you travel to another culture, that you're going to go through that process, right, of developing this greater integration to the culture. It really depends on you, like what you do, the level of recycling that you go through, the level of change, the level of effort to, change yourself, to really look at yourself, to look at those things that are interfering in this process of, developing, acquiring a greater sense of universalism to that culture that you're, living in or traveling to. So there's this idea of moving from this ethnocentric mindset, a focus just on thinking your culture is the best, is more superior to the others, which is a natural tendency. All people have that to some extent. Just because you grew up in the culture, you're conditioned to think that, that culture is better than the other cultures. But, you can, to develop this, what's known as this intercultural sensitivity, this ability to interact with people from different cultures in a better way. You go through this kind of these different phases, moving from like a defense, you're kind of defending your own culture and all those aspects within it, to the denial. Then you minimize those aspects before going to an acceptance, and then an adaptation. So this is this movement of change, and before reaching this integration. And so you go to this idea of ethno-relativism. So I mentioned here ethno-relativism, which is, like Anna was saying, not seeing cultures as better or worse, but just different. But at the same time, we need to include this aspect of cosmoethics. You're not just going to a culture and, how could I say, accept everything, right? You're still going to have your level of criticism, your discernment, and certain values that you maintain within yourself, that you're not going to change, maybe evolutionary values as well that you're developing. And so the culture doesn't always take that into account. And so, yeah. But you have a greater level of, you see cultures more in a horizontal way, right? Rather than in a stratified kind of one is better than the other kind of way. Okay. Anna, did you want to mention something?
Yeah, it's interesting, no? Because it's entering into a new culture or a new place. After a while, you just look and understand what is happening there. You start to not minimize anymore, but you look and say it's how the things works. And so it's not necessarily, now I'm not looking at Japanese or Chinese or Africans, and you expand this. It's not that classification anymore. And sometimes you look, they do not hug so much, so they are not very emotional. And no, we have in cross-culture, in cross-cultural psychology, you see affection is universal. Everyone, they display affection. The only thing is different. It's some different way of display that. But if we had our mindset closed and thinking that my way or my country or my city, my family display in certain way affection, I'm going to take that and say, well, everyone has to be like this, no? And it's not like this. So it's interesting in these what you're saying, when we face a new culture, and this can be between countries, can be in a new city, even within a country, you travel from south to north, and it's completely different. Or when we have a relationship with another person, with a group, or with another person, we talk about evolutionary dual as an exercise to increase our max fraternity, our universalism, because you are dealing with two different universes, and how you combine and work together in that process and increase our universalism. This ability to look the other person and to get them, not to want to interpret them. No, that's a quite different thing. No, so it's very interesting, the intercultural sensitivity, because it's not go only between the cultures, but in our relationships. We assume that I know you. No, just because you have two eyes and you speak, and I know you, or you are Brazilian or the same Australian or the same culture that I am. But we don't know. We don't know because this person has a whole history, multi-existential. They've been passing through many things, and you look and you just assume that, it's quite it's more you telling who is this person or interpreting yourself rather than getting the person. And the universalism, I think it helps us to put down all these behavioral in a way of interacting, that we see the things for what it is rather than put labels and classifications and classify, although we live in a dimension that is necessary, those classifications.
Exactly. Yeah, these and interpret things a certain way. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna. I think, and you're dealing with two micro universes, right? With this,
Yes.
each one with all their, previous experiences, and how can we possibly know who that other person is and try to, or try to change the person or control the person in some way, want them to be who you are. The universalism starts, I think, in the with yourself and with the relationship. The first in this relationship, and especially I was thinking in terms of you have a relationship with people from different cultures, right? Then
Yes.
You add another dimension to that as well, right?
Exactly, because it's two different backgrounds for this life, no? And so you come from different. You were raised different. You have habits different, and how to interact. Even the relationship between the genders, the balance into that, and so. How do we deal with that without stress so much the difference that we already have in our environment, if you think in this us now we are talking about, it's lots of classifications. It's the black, the white, it's the green we do not have, the would be the ET, but the differences in cultures, and the south and the north. Now it's a classification of the countries, because before it was the developed countries, but now it's south and north classification. So we all thinking in binary. We see people good with people bad. We see the Muslims versus the Jewish. We see the religions versus the Christians versus evangelics. We see religions. We see the wars, the countries that are more developed, more money or not. We see the classism, the status, especially in countries where the social gap is so strong, like we see in India, which is stress, or Philippines, or Brazil, or Argentina, where the poor is quite, you see who is poor and who is very rich, and how this plays with us and make us stop there and classify that, and that's it. No? And we see in certain countries the political movement, like conservative against the opposite was the conservative and the progressist, and then we have the labor and the opposition, and so it's and people fight with each other because of those places where they put themselves, or classifications. And universalism invite us to go beyond this, beyond that division. If we see the synthesis, we all are consciousness in evolution. No?
Yes, exactly. And I was thinking as well, like in this life, we, for me and for you, we happen to be born into a female body. In another life, we could be born into a male body, or born into a different culture or different religion, and all of this, and we forget about that. And and this is something important to remember, that we are beyond, we're multi-existential, but we're multifaceted, multicultural. We have so many different elements to us, for us to limit ourselves in, to our country, or to our, whatever it is that we're, connecting to. It's something like I was thinking this idea of the cosmopolitan, person. I think it's interesting. You're a citizen of the world, right? You don't have any strong connection to one place to the other. Of course, we have our affinities, and that's important to recognize. But we're not attached to the point that we defend it, against other places. And
yeah, exactly. You are citizens of the world. What does it mean that? What does it mean? Means that I can go anywhere and I'm going to feel at home. I'm going to feel part of everything that's happening there, or the people that we know, where you do not feel lonely. You encounter people. You encounter, no, in my experience, I traveled a lot, and I still gonna travel a lot because I think it's so enrich us. But I lived in places, and I always found people who I have affinity with, and who I have a history with, great friends, and so the world start to be small because you feel happy no matter where you are. And what you were saying is, and this has relation with our mindset, how we see the world around us and how we limit. And this has our brain as well. We are in this dimension, and one of the organs that we need to preserve is our brain and understand how it works. And everything nowadays, the research shows that every experience we have impact our brain. And if we have emotions and a certain vocabulary, this will impact, and this can expand our view of the world or can restrict. And so the way we think that goes in one only monocultural, monosyllable way of thinking, this will, as a result, limit our view of what it is about the world now. And the world is much more than our family, or not that we're going to leave our family behind, because they're part of our group, they are related with us, but we have a global family as well that we need to look after as well, if we want, or to think about, at least to think about. No?
Yes. And I think that's the point, like seeing, we mentioned before, but to emphasize this idea of that, we're part of we're part of a human family, and we're part of a consensual family, and all consciousnesses, we're all consciousnesses, and we all are evolving. We're all in this process of evolving. And this is like the mindset, that's, we want to have to develop this universalism that can help us to develop more universalism.
Yeah, and when we talk about interassistancy, understand that interassistancy. And so there are lots of consciousness that need assistance, but we need as well. So we are included in the process. So that interassistance, the perspective that we all are helping each other in some way with the best things that we have, we all are helping each other. And one, I have a value, it's a value, a principle that when I enter into a place, I make sure that I'll leave that place better than when I arrived there. I think it's quite important we think that, because no matter who I meet or where I am or where I live, I always think, okay, I'm going to go out from this place and live better than how I found, or cleaner, or less messy, or the person, they will not feel well, but after I go, I'll make sure they're going to feel well. Not that I will convince the person to do that, but in my way, we're going to help that. So it's the same as you go walk around and you throw a rubbish, you put a water bottle, a plastic water bottle on the ground, and you threw there. Someone will have to go there and take that bottle and throw on the rubbish bin. Someone will have to clean the mess that you are leaving behind. So it's the same with the money. No, sometimes we think, it's free. No, not free. Someone is paying that. If not with money, with the energy, with the time. And so everything we look not from a perspective of egocentric, but who else is around me. And one of the things that the universalism brings us is this, no? You start to expand your view from the things around us, the distance, other cultures, and the multidimensionality.
That's it. Very nice. So we have Melanie here made a comment. So perhaps we can read. She says, now also societies within a culture are splitting due to corona. Vaccinated people versus people resisting COVID measures. Yeah, that's true. This kind of challenge can happen from micro to macro scales. I agree, Melanie. Yeah, that's another division, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's not a surprise, for me at least, not a surprise. I think we live in a dimension that in our us, no, it's not that evolved planet, but we tend to divide. I think by default, it's easier for us to create division rather than union. We had a great opportunity with the pandemic. It's nice that you are mentioning that because with the pandemic, we were closer to each other, not only because of the social media, now the internet, but also to understand the suffering. Through the suffering, unfortunately, and to the success as well. We saw everyone in the same boat, living the same experience, and somehow this helped us to come closer. For some people, this was great. I've met people. I've heard people clinically, I've heard people and referring how they changed themselves and how they interact with others. But other people, they didn't change and they kept creating the same division that they always gonna have in the preconception as well. And we are having this a proof of that. No, if I'm not vaccinated, I'm affecting somebody else. I'm not here saying that people should vaccinate it, okay? I'm not saying that. I think every person has the freedom to have their own position. But for me, the way I think it is, I had information about that, what is involved, and so on. But beyond that, if I do not have myself that vaccination, when I go to places, if I had that virus, I will pass to other people. So it's kind of responsibility, a community, no, a global community commitment. And also, if you do not have the vaccination, you do not travel. You can't travel if you do not vaccinate it. So some things people need to think about, no?
Yes, I agree. It's interesting to think about it. Yeah, I mean, I had a similar view to you, thinking about what would be the best decision for the collective, right? The whole world, really, because we see that there really are no borders. This virus, it travels, from one country to the other through a microorganism. And so we, on one level, just like you were saying, Anna, we see how all of us were affected by it. It's not one group that wasn't affected. And so we come closer as a human race, right, in terms of these types of experiences. But yes.
And also, I would like to add something, and Melanie, for us to think that because of this kind of universalism that we access many information, we have access to internet. If people speak other language, they can read magazines and listen people talk from other languages as well, in different perspective. And the great about this, and people is free to decide what they want to do and suffer the consequence of that. And so I think I saw movements where people fought with each other because you are vaccinated, I'm not vaccinated, and I'm going to fight with you because you didn't vaccinate it. So one of the things interesting about universalism, it's a world state. And the world state, it's we all come together. But preserving the individuality of people, preserving the essence of every person, like sometimes some ideas of prior, sometimes religions comes with these ideas, some political system comes with ideas. It's massive, put everyone with the same necessities and everyone is equal in a sense that everyone needs the same things. And it's not like this. We all have different evolutionary levels. We all have different necessities due to our history, multi-existential history. And we're going to have people who are pro helping the animals and helping life, and the others gonna die. They'll kill the animals. Some gonna go for, I have a vaccination, others no, I'm not gonna have. Who cares? I'm not gonna preserve myself. I do not want to do anything with the community. And yet we needed to live with it. And how do we live with it? No? And I think it comes the discernment, the max fraternism, the universalism. And Jaclyn and I, we were talking about this, now, at which level we take, where we get the limits. We all have our limits. We think, I'm not, I am a universalist person. But if comes some close to us, someone that is stinky, you turn your nose and go away, or someone who is on the street and come to ask for money, and you go away, you say, get out from here. Or someone that is in your home, clean your home every day, and one day you invite people for dinner and you do not invite them to sit with you because that place is in the kitchen. So these kind of things that we see our level of universalism in our behavior, in our day-to-day life. It's not the bigger things, it's the small things in our day-to-day that we see our level of universalism and cosmetics as well, no? And nobody can measure that, it's us.
Yeah. And taking it one step further as well, what you're saying exactly, Anna, taking it to, how could I say, the extra physical dimension. How do we interact with the extra physicals around us, even if we're not so aware? But for example, our intruders, it's how do we interact with them? Like, we only want to interact with the helpers, the blind guides, and then there's the intruders. So how do we interact with them? If they come close, what do? We we don't want anything to do with them, and yet, we have an opportunity to really look at ourselves and also to assist. And so it's, it's a, how could I say, it's a constant process of on multiple levels, seeing how we interact with other consciousnesses, and other things is with the plants, right, and the animals, and and the little insects,
Yeah. And also we work with clarification tasks. We go and talk about this setting of ideas in many different countries. You had the experience, I have the experience. So, and we speak another language, and you come. But every single country, when we arrive, how much do you think about the people and the astrophysicals as well? We have something to say, but do they want to live here? And so how much do you think about this? Or you think, no, I have this set of ideas, they are so important, and you must listen that and impose that. And there is a concept of para-diplomacy where we can work together. We are applying the universalism in a sense that, okay, I do not have all the information, it's my experience, and you guys gonna tell what is necessary, what's not. And it's having more equal relationship than thinking that yes, I'm better or worse. We have in our history, in our culture, in many countries, countries that name themselves more evolved or more technological, whatever, and they went to other countries and they dominate, they killed the inhabitants and we slavery them, and created a whole set of informations or ideas to explain why they were doing that, because they were superior. And so it's what we have, and not many centuries ago. So it is some challenge for us to be able to deal with all these set of ideas that is still, it's around in the Holocene, the set of thoughts, emotions, and that are surrounding us, and at the same time bringing ideas that are more universalistic, more fraternal, more cosmoethicals, but not to talk only, but to act in our day-to-day life, no?
Yes, to practice.
To practice, yes.
Yeah,
to bring that and to change that, yes. Yeah.
So just like Melanie made another comment, she said the virus is truly cosmopolitan. Yes. Exactly.
Yes, it doesn't preserve anybody. It goes beyond the borders and interact with everyone. No, interact with everyone. And the
Exactly.
interesting thing it is when it comes out and leave a result different também to everyone. We didn't have one response only, a consequence only. No, the effect that the virus did. It's cosmopolitan, and now I think more and more we're gonna have that because more and more we circulate more. We go from one country to another and go, and everybody's traveling. People are interacting, so this might happen more and more.
Yes, and this aspect of globalization, it is, of course, the people have the negative aspects of globalization, but ultimately, I see it as positive just because of this greater interconnection between people involved in activities across the world, right? On many different levels. And ultimately, I think moving towards this idea of the world state, right?
Yes,
Um, so it's interesting to see like how long it's going to take and what do we still need to do
yes.
within ourselves, all of us as consciousnesses, to eventually get to that point, right? Uh,
Yeah, and to value this, no? Now, now during the pandemic, I read and saw lots of scientists that has interest in the things that I like to study, and it's fascinating. They release a book and 2 months or 3 months, books translated in Arabic, in Japanese, in Chinese, in any language, and so more and more we see these science as well, interconnected with other people from other countries. And the initiative now, the World Health Organization set from 2010 to 2030, is going to have a development to help people to improve the quality of aging. And so now they are developing partnerships in each country to actually execute that. And so we more and more are intercommunicating with each other. And information that comes from there in America comes to Russia, everyone is sharing those informations more and more. So I think it's just the tip of the iceberg that what would be world country, but I think a world state. But I think it's already there. It's something I don't know. Maybe centuries you're gonna see that, but it's the beginning. I think
yes.
it starts, and I think it's quite important that we understand the universalism start within, from ourselves. We can't demand from other person be cosmetical or be universalistic. No, no. I can demand from me. I can develop myself and develop my knowledge, my self knowledge, my experiences, in order to increase that, to develop more and mature conscientially. But I can't say to the other person. But if I change, I am already a drop in the ocean, and already going to make a difference for people.
Yes, and it's your example as well, how your example helps to, inspire others, motivate others to change as well. And also, yeah, I guess, there is this aspect of education and all these things, right, which comes through this assistance. But ultimately, it starts with yourself, this level of coherence, between yourself and the acts that you do, right? And we have a comment here from Anna Getalina. We sometimes don't realize how important universalism is for humanity. Its lack has triggered big human massacres throughout history. Yes.
Yeah, yes, yeah. We can see that. No, it's maybe it's the context. Maybe probably consciousness astrophysics will try to avoid, to help, to assist people to avoid to get that point, but probably didn't have resonance to that. But more and more now, some things that we see. I remember when I was when it started the European Union, at the change of the century. I was living in Madrid that time, at that time. And I remember that it was the turn of the year, and the next year we're going to have Euros now. And the borders will go down, and everybody could travel with one currency. And that day was the energy around was the happiness, the deep happiness, not euphoria, but the happiness. And I thought one day that day walk around, how much effort has been made to get to that point. And yet there are lots of conflicts. So there are lots of initiative for this big union, not only there, but Pacific, Asian Pacific, aqui, here in Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Mercosul. That's economically. And it start to affect people's mentality. But we still have lots of wars. Hundreds relate to religions, other relate because differences in ideas or perspectives or politics. So we still have this in this plan. But I think it's important to remember that there is an investment. We talk about the reurbanization. Actually, is having a course now, no, for the IIPC, International Institute of Projectology Conscientiology. They are giving a course on this subject and showing exactly this, the reurbanization. There is a movement that start to happen many years ago, and in order to help to diminish those massacres and those things that we see in many levels, not many levels. Now, the slavery that went out, the slavery, we think that finished, but slavery mentality, no. And so we still slavery people in name of the work, in name of emotional, and so on.
Yeah,
this will be a theme for other time.
Exactly. It's another topic. But,
Yes.
How could I say? It's interesting because our planet and all the consciousnesses on this planet, it's so, there is different levels, and there are those that are really wanting to make that effort to contribute to the improvement of humanity, make us come closer to this world state idea. There are others who are still, in the barotrosphere, and this is where we are. And of course there's us as well. Like, we need to look at ourselves and what traits or remnants we still have within us that are, keeping us in either connected with those more barotrospheric aspects and those things which we're trying to recycle to completely move out. But at the end of the day, it's, this is the reality. And, we need to accept the reality as it is at this moment, with this focus in always making this effort to see what you can do, right, as an individual consciousness, because all the little actions together will eventually, through this process of evolution, it will
and it's not easy for us to look at the problem now and see, yeah, it's part of the world. But if we start to think, we can look at this as these people, they shouldn't be here. They should all disappear because they are very primitive. And but universalism is inclusive, everyone. So everyone has a chance. And also, if we are here, we still are in this level as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in terms of evolutionary. So sometimes our mindset can put us in a position of superiority, and to think that I'm better and you just disturbing my life. You are just making my life a mess. Or we saw this in pandemic. We know, and I'm respecting that. We lost many people. People really suffer with that. But pandemic show us it is a virus that disturbed the life around the world. But some people took advantage of that and improved their life exponentially. Other people, they weren't able to do that. So it's depend on us. And so there are the massacre, yes. There are all sorts of differences, yes. Atrocities, yes. But how we relate with that and how we deal with that is defined by us. I can learn with that. Or I'm going to choose and say, you are disturbing my life. Go away. I do not want to see you close to me. because I want to keep myself clean. And universalism demands from us that we come together, clean or not, we all part of the big picture that we need to commit ourselves.
Exactly. And there's just a final comment by Melanie. And what is the ocean but a multitude of drops? Cloud Atlas.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Each of us doing our part. No, we see around the world that there are lots of initiatives for peace. People protecting the animals. We didn't talk about this, no, but the animals under the sea. All sorts of interventions to help people in the level that the person can help. We are talking about multidimensionality, penta practitioner, working, doing assistance. We're talking about out-of-body experience in a way that people can experience and have first-hand experiences there. So all this is part of this big picture for us to improve, to help, no, to facilitate the increase of universalism of the consciousness in this planet.
Very good. So, guys, that's we've come to the end of the bridge talks, and so yeah, it's if anyone wants to know anything more about this topic or yeah, just send us an email, and yeah, we'll be happy to to talk and answer any questions or.
And also, there are lots of courses. As I said today, the hybridization course is happening, and many other courses that people can develop the perception of the energies and so on. In ISIC, you can see all these activities, and the website in CIEC as well. Most of the consciential organizations nowadays speak in English as well. They have courses, or if they do not have courses where people are speaking English, we have simultaneous translation. And so if you want this information, you can get those courses that helps in different angles to develop this universalism as a result of consciential maturity.
Exactly, that's it. So yeah, there's lots of courses, materials, there's also on our website, you'll find lots of information as well. So yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk about this subject. Thank you. Thank you, Jaclyn.
Yes, thanks, Anna. Bye.
Bye-bye.